Hey toy fans, you all know me, I'm Tony from Analog Toys, and welcome to episode 8 of Palitalk, a retro toy podcast. And I'm joined today by a patron of the channel, Mr. Michael Shaffer or Shaffer?
Shaffer, you got it.
Okay, because I've been calling you Mr. Michael Shaffer for ages. For some reason, I thought it was an SCH, like Schumacher. And then I saw on your Instagram thing today. Well, actually, when I was writing the notes for the show, and I was like, well, there's no C there. Have I been mispronouncing his name all these years?
There's 10, 15 spellings. A C, no C, an A, an AE, an EA, 2F, 1F. Yeah, so it's all good.
All right. And how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm honored, and thank you so much for asking me to be on Palitalk. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. I'm looking forward to getting a few more of the patrons on when I find the time. I've got a lot of things going on at the moment. So, but anyway, I know you're a huge Ken of Star Wars fan. Obviously, you've got a fantastic collection there behind you.
Thank you.
So I thought, the theme today will be Ken of Star Wars and probably our childhood memories of that. By all means, we can go off on tangents because, well, you can't stop me from going off on a tangent anyway. So, but when did you first get into Star Wars? And when I say that, it's kind of most people watched the movie first before they got the toys. So tell me your story.
Definitely the movie first. I was born in 74, so in 77 I was 3, so I was a little too young to see it when it first came out in the theaters. But I know I saw it in a re-release at some point. My parents took me to see it. The first movie, I think I've told this story before, the first movie I ever saw in the theaters was Superman the movie in 78. I was 4, and that movie just captured me and made me have a passion for movies ever since. But I definitely saw Star Wars, and I, like you call it, Star Wars, not A New Hope or Episode 4, before Empire Strikes Back. But shortly after seeing the movie, and again, I was too young to remember exact years. Shortly after seeing the movie, I know I got toys because the first toy figure I got was Darth Vader. I still have him. That was the first action figure.
You still have your original Darth Vader?
Still have my original Darth Vader. Yep. He doesn't have his original lightsaber. He has his original cape, though.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah.
Have to have that. But yeah, so, and then it was just obsession with the movies, the toys. I mean, Empire came out, and that just blew my mind. I was the perfect age. Yoda was real to me. He wasn't a puppet. He was a person. He was a character. It was real to me. What was that, 1980? So I was 6 years old, starting kindergarten. So the toys, my whole life, action figures, vehicles, play sets, the whole deal. Star Wars was a huge, huge part growing up, and ever since.
Yeah. As I can see behind, that's the, I'm going to say the name wrong. So behind your left shoulder, the vehicle, next to the Rancor.
Next to the skiff. The skiff. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but that's a vintage original.
No, that's a Power of the Force 2.
Okay.
That's
I would really like to pick one of those up, and I'm probably going to go for the Power of the Force 2 because obviously the originals are just so darn expensive, and everything Star Wars is going up and up in price.
They're insane. I picked that up super cheap because it's a Power of the Force 2. It was complete. It serves its purpose. I found, even as a kid, you knew you couldn't have everything. So you had to pick and choose your battles. You had to pick and choose which things you wanted. And quickly you learned, I don't remember how old I was, but I do remember realizing, things cost money. We don't have a lot of money. So I have to ask for things that we can actually afford. You can't ask for, you're not going to get a USS flag. We can't afford a USS. Don't even ask for that. But there are things that we could afford, and you ask for those things. So that always was back in my mind. But I remember, Christmas of '81 was the Christmas of the AT-AT, and that even blew my old man's mind. He was he thought toys and all that was pretty ridiculous and a waste of money because it wasn't a sport and you weren't practicing to get better at some sport. But but he was like, he was like, Jesus, that thing's impressive. It's the size of a collie, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Star Wars. We had a fire, so the whole toy thing. We had a fire in '92, so a lot of my larger toys and play sets got lost. My Darth Vader figure carrying case, all my figures were in there, and all the weapons and accessories were in the little locker, so none of those were ever lost. So those were safe, but where the fire started in the basement, that's where the larger toys were kept. So those unfortunately were lost. But I do have, of all the vehicles, I still have my original X-Wing and my original Darth Vader TIE Fighter. So those are two prized possessions to have still with me all these 40 plus years later.
Yeah, that's I'm really sorry to hear that story. Like, everyone's got stories of losing their childhood collection at garage sales, and I've said it many times on this channel. I sold most of my toys when we moved from England to Australia in 1988, and costs a lot of money to ship furniture and all your stuff. So my parents wanted me to sell everything because I was 11 then, and they were like, "You're not going to be into toys much longer." But I was adamant that Action Man was not going to be sold, and I think my dad, being a toy collector, collecting toy soldiers, I think he kind of understood, and they said, right, well, you can have one box, and it was Action Man. So all the Star Wars got sold. I sold my Millennium Falcon. It was missing a few pieces, but I sold that for like £1. But at least in that situation, someone else got the toys. Right. In your situation, they were actually destroyed, and that's quite heartbreaking. So
I think it's what made me appreciate what I did have left and why I kept what survived all those years. Because I really only restarted collecting toys, I want to say, in 2018, mid to late.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really only got back into it. And it's one of those things, I don't remember whose channel I saw first. I either saw yours, Retro Blastings, or Toy Polloi. But within basically minutes of seeing one of the channels, I saw all three. And I found this incredible, hey, we can fix toys. It's okay to have toys. You don't have to be embarrassed. Because I was never ashamed or embarrassed about it, but I always felt like I had to defend, non-toy people, let's say, would ask, well, why are you keeping these toys? Why do you still have these toys? What's the matter? I said, there's nothing but great memories, fun times, joy. I get nothing but happiness and calm, and it's almost like an oasis of peace, when you look at the toys and the memories you have with them and the connection you have with them. Oh, I remember that Christmas, or I remember playing on the playground and thought I lost this missile or that lightsaber, but you found it, an hour or two later, all those things. So but again, I don't recall whose channel I saw first. It doesn't really matter at this point, but I only got into it fairly recently again.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting when you say, it's okay to collect toy. I kept it a secret for a long time. My family knew, obviously my wife knew. I kept it a secret for a long time. Actually, when I first left Iraq, I didn't want to come back and face the real world immediately, get a regular job and everything. And I had made a documentary about my time in Iraq, which, due to confidentiality clauses in the contract, was never going to see the light of day. In hindsight, I'm kind of glad that never came out, but here I am off on a tangent again. But then I thought, well, you could do something different. You've got this passion for filmmaking, and I've been learning it over the last 4 years when I was in Iraq, being mentored by a good friend of mine who had experience he's mainly a print journalist, but he had a lot of experience in documentary. So I was like, well, I've got this huge Action Man collection. I'm incredibly passionate about the toy line. No one's ever made a documentary. People have written books, but no one's ever made a documentary. Why don't you do that? So So I went off to do that. And that was the first time I ever really told anyone of my army friends or anything that this is what I was going to do. And when I started to tell them, obviously Action Man being a military toy, every one of them was like, oh, I had the Red Devil parachuters when I was a kid. And some people didn't quite get it, but the vast majority of them were kind of okay. But then even when I started the YouTube channel, I would not tell anybody at work about it. And it wasn't that I was embarrassed or anything like that, because I don't get embarrassed. I don't really care what other people think of me. After years of being in the special forces and several years working as a mercenary in Iraq, well, why do I care what someone in the corporate office thinks of me? But it was probably more to do with the fact that I didn't want to bore people with it.
Right.
If they're not into it. Like, I really struggle. The only sport that I really watch is the UFC, because for some reason, as much as I'm far from a violent man these days, I do still like spending Sunday mornings watching people get punched in the face. But I'm not, and I enjoy football or soccer, as you call it in America. Well, actually, they call it soccer here in Australia too. It's football in England. I enjoy that, and I used to coach young kids. I haven't done that for a couple of years, but I really enjoyed that. But I don't particularly watch football on TV. I'm not into sports, and as you know, you'll probably know, most Monday mornings at work, the guys get together and they're all chatting about the big game on the weekend, and I was always this outsider, and I'm like, imagine if I was like, oh, I just picked up this awesome vintage Shipwreck figure from G.I. Joe. How many of them are they even going to know what the hell I'm talking about? And the reason I mentioned Shipwreck is literally he arrived in I had a beautiful Shipwreck figure, and I've had for some time, with no accessories. And I've been trying to purchase the accessories on their own, couldn't get them. And then a complete Shipwreck with all the accessories, file card, nice condition, was on sale in Australia. It wasn't cheap, but for me, when I get stuff from the States, I'm paying, even for a single action figure, I'm paying $30, $40 shipping. This was $8 shipping. And the guy had a, what do you call it? Like a make an offer thing. And I'm always, if someone puts something up at $80, I'm not going to make him an offer of 40 or, so he had it up for $80 Australian. I offered him, I think 65, and he came back at 73, and I'm like, done. Which with postage, $81. And he turned up, and he's very nice condition, but there's like a slight little mark off his tattoo and a tiny bit of paint off his mustache, barely noticeable. But when I took the loose figure I had without accessories and look, the one I had is completely mint. I'm like, okay, you're going with the accessories on the shelf with the other figures, and the loose one with a slight tattoo missing, he's now driving the devilfish.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've already answered my next question here, which is when you became an adult collector. So
yeah.
So what came first? Was it discovering the YouTube channels, or had you already started getting back into toys? Or
no, it was discovering YouTube channels, and it happened very organically and almost at the same time. I discovered the YouTube channel. We went to see a movie maybe that weekend or the following. Can't even remember what movie it was, but at the mall that the theater's at, there happened to be a secondhand shop, and we were waiting to go to the movie and killing time, and we're walking through it, and I see in the back a 12-inch Darth Vader with arms. So I beeline the back of this antique shop, and there's some 3 3/4-inch Kenner classic figures, a Darth Vader. I think there was a carrying case and maybe one or two other things, pretty beat up, but the figures were lying there, nothing's priced. So I grab all of the 3 3/4 figures and take them up front. And I said, how much do you want for them? And he said, $1. I said, $1 each? That sounds great. He said, no, $1 for all of them. Like, damn. Right? I mean,
2018.
Yeah, 2018, $1 for, I think it was seven figures, maybe 5. I have the picture. I'd have to look up to remember exactly the number of figures. It was 5 or 7, doesn't matter. Anyway, so that I I then decided, okay, I'm going to start watching some of these how to repair videos. You've done some, Retroblasting's done some, Toy Beloy's done some. Look at all those. And if I can get figures this cheaply, because I knew at this point what they were going for, and I thought it was insane. Because I remember the prices, even in adjusted dollars, I remember the prices, and they made a billion point whatever of these figures worldwide from, 78 through 85. It's insane, the prices. But anyway, it's a religion or a cult. Very, very odd. But anyway, I thought, well, this is great. And how much fun I had fixing them up. I had as much fun fixing them up as it was collecting them, because I used to build models as a kid, so I like painting things. I like to work on cars, things like that. So yeah, that was very enjoyable. And it wasn't costly. I'm not getting in trouble. I'm not out getting drunk or getting in fights. I'm not out, wasting money, gambling, or doing anything. I'm at home, fixing up toys or whatever. Anyway, so yeah. A lot of joy, but yeah, only in 2018. But I always kept in the back of my mind, I want to eventually, some point, have a place to display my toys. I always thought of it doing it in like a home theater setting.
Yeah.
I've always been, like I said before, into movies. So back in the day, had the Laserdisc player, the DVD, all the way through all the different generations and incarnations of media. And like you and Michael French, I like to have physical media. I'm not into the whole streaming thing. I'll stream live streams. That's fine. I have no problem with that. That's different. But yeah, so because of that, I always kept in my mind, I'm going to keep these toys. I'm going to have these figures. I'm going to be able to, never thinking, oh, I'm going to basically try to complete the line. But from 2018 on, I started thinking, well, we have an extra room. We don't have any kids. No FTs, as my friend calls them. So that's yeah. Anyway, double income, no kids. Dink. Figured I can turn one of the spare rooms into a toy room. So started looking at shelving and things like that. And I decided on getting basically what Retroblasting has. I thought, well, that's exactly what I want. They're tall. They hold as much as I can. And I also knew I had a limited space, and I had to focus on what I had the most passion for and what I had the most fond memories of, which is why I gave away all my Transformers. I donated all my Transformers to Toy Beloy because I thought, I have more memories of these things breaking or falling apart. Seriously. And I was careful with my toys. These things, they would just crumble in your hand sometimes. It was ridiculous. I'm the same with you. Megatron as a robot is ridiculous. He was fine as a gun. I used him as a gun all the time, playing Army, not playing Transformers. Anyway, so I knew I had to focus on, in a limited space with a limited budget, certain things. Star Wars was my first love, so that's where I started.
Yeah, I think from the age of 10, I'd always had a dream and a vision of a collection room with glass cabinets with action mat. From the age of 10, it was. I got out of toys for a few years. I started, probably 13, I think, is when I really stopped playing with toys. And I think the next Christmas I wanted a surfboard. Never became a very good surfer. Actually, I never became a surfer. I just tried. And then it was 2016. I went to a toy show with my dad where he was collecting lead. So it was mainly a metal, die-cast metal soldier kind of show. But there was, I've told the story before, there was a box of Action Man and $6 Million Man stuff under the table. And he bought it for me. That started me collecting at the age of 16. And then probably didn't have anything out because I went into the army at 17 in Australia, and through all the basic training, my collection was back home. And it was probably when I was like 18, I I brought over what little I had and then started collecting more. I was on the east coast of Australia, then in Sydney. Started collecting more, and the collection was displayed on bookshelves, and it was when I was working in Iraq. I was earning pretty good money over there, living in Thailand on my time, and I had some stuff in my apartment in Thailand, but the majority of my collection was with my parents, all boxed up in a spare bedroom. And I was like, while I'm earning this good money and I have the time, I had one glass cabinet actually that I've had for years. I think someone bought it. I think my parents got it for me for my 21st birthday. But then I had two other much larger glass cabinets, and I had them especially made to fit so that Action Man carded outfits could either fit on the side of the shelf. I had the right height at the back with about an inch to spare, so you could see them because I've got mirror backing in them. Right. They weren't cheap, but I had them custom made. And fortunately for me, my brother runs a glass business. Big shout out to glasscapes.com.au. He's got a glass business, so he did the mirror backing, the glass shelves, and the glass for me, like at cost price. And a cabinet maker friend built the cabinets for me, and I absolutely love them. But as you may know, I live in a 3-story house. We're in the top floor. It was not easy getting these things up here. We had to disassemble them. Top, bottom, sides, back, and luckily they're easy to disassemble. But the back is like 22 mil thick wood with a 6 mil mirror glued onto it. It's big, it's heavy, and it was not a fun day getting them up here. I'm not looking forward to the day I move out of this house.
Oh my God. Yeah, I only had to carry these up one story, and they were disassembled. Glass is not light, but yours sound twice as heavy. So, my God, and 3 stories. So that's a lot.
Yeah, and not only 3 stories. It's like to go between the ground floor and the top floor. It's up half the flight of stairs, around a corner, up the flight, around the corner, up a flight, around a corner. So there must be 5 corners to go around to get in here. And once I got everything up here, I actually didn't touch it for like 2 weeks. I was like, I'm not even prepared for this.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The reason it all came together, my sister-in-law was moving up from Florida, and the cabinet maker is in Georgia. It's basically the stuff I have is it's retail cabinetry. It's retail display cabinetry, and shipping from Georgia to Pennsylvania wasn't cheap. Even flat rate shipping, was costly. But she happened to be coming up. She had a U-Haul. She could, pop over to Atlanta and come up through. She's going to Pennsylvania. So she was nice enough back in May of, I guess it would have been last year because it was during Corona. Well, that's been going on since March, during COVID-19 and all that. Anyway, she stopped. She picked him up, and we unloaded him. But I kept him in the garage for at least a month. I'm like, this is going to be a nightmare carrying these upstairs. I almost, killed myself unloading them off the truck. But yeah, no, I feel your pain in that. But I can't imagine doing the corners because glass doesn't bend.
No.
At all.
No, it doesn't. Because these cabinets are so wide, the glass shelves. As I said, my brother, that's what he does. He's been doing in the glass industry for years. He's like, because you want these so long, I wanted thinner glass shelves. And I'm like, but actually they're plastic toys. They're not heavy. He said, it's not about that. It's the span and them sagging. He said, if you get 6 mil glass shelves, they might last a few years, and one day you'll come out and it's just cracked in half. So they are 10 mil thick shelves, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 in each cabinet, the glass, 8 of them. You go from 5 or 6 mil thick glass up to 10. It's a huge difference.
Oh my God. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. I can't imagine. No, I've looked at them with my mouth watering every time you've given a tour through your toy room. So yeah, they're beautiful. I love them. I think it seems to me it's well worth every penny you spent because they show off the Action Man beautifully.
Yeah, I need more. Like when I purchased these at the time, it was going to be big enough to house the whole collection. The only thing that wouldn't go in would be I used to have a lot more Action Man vehicles. I've downsized the vehicle collection now. At the time, it kind of housed the entire collection, but that was 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah,
and that was at the point when I finished making the Story of Action Man documentary. I then, after that, I was like, I'd purchased a lot of additional toys for the documentary, and I still don't have everything, but there's a lot of items that I don't necessarily feel I need to have. So that was at the point when I went, I'm going to start collecting some other stuff, and I think I started with $6 Million Man, quickly into Star Wars, and then Rambo, and then fast forward probably 5 years, and I was. I was always looking around, and it surprises me that retro blasting had been around for about 3 or 4 years before I discovered them, because I was always on YouTube looking for toy videos. But I think I would, and I do the same on eBay. I often use the keyword vintage when I search stuff. If I had only thought to use the word retro instead of vintage, I probably would have found them right at the start. But anyway, the first video I came across was their Ghostbusters toy feature.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it, and Michael has a similar story about, when he started the channel, he was looking for Voltron videos or whatever, and people were showing incomplete toys and all that. And I stumbled across this, and I was like, this is the kind of toy videos that I've been wanting to watch for years. I go through their channel page, and there's loads of content. I'm like, how am I just finding this now? So I binge watched everything over a couple of weeks. And then I came home and I said to the wife, I'm starting a YouTube channel. And I don't know why I'd never, ever thought of it before. It's like I never went to film school or anything, but I've made a 90-minute documentary that was sold on DVD. I've got experience. I've got some equipment. Unfortunately, we had a break-in in our, not this house, the house we lived in before this. When we first moved to Port Hedland, I say a break-in. While we were home, someone came in through the unlocked front door of the house. And when you walked in the door of that house, we'd only been here a couple of weeks in Port Hedland. You come in through the front door, and the first room on the right was like a study, and it didn't have a door on it. It was a big sort of open. But I had my computer desk in there, and in the corner, I had a semi-professional camera that cost me about $5,000 a number of years ago. That's the camera I used to make the Story of Action Man documentary on. And then another good quality, high definition Sony camera on good quality tripods. Guy walked in the middle of the day while we were home. My son saw him in the hallway, and apparently he went shush to him like that, grabbed these cameras, and my son, I think I was in the backyard. He came out and he's like, Dad, I think your friend's here. And I'm like, no, I haven't heard a car, and like no one I knew would walk around. He's like, well, some man just came in the house. I'm like, what? Wow. And then, yeah, lost these 2 video cameras. I don't think I've never shared this story on.
I don't remember this story.
No, I'm pretty sure I haven't. The most heartbreaking thing for me and Gracie is that when we got married, we kind of got married on a bit of a budget because we'd just moved from Thailand to Australia, again, an expensive move. I've lived in so many different countries. So I used my camera to record our wedding, and with friends sharing round cameraman duties. And even though we'd been married for probably 2 years at that point, me being me, had not got around to editing the wedding video, and all the footage was on. I hadn't even downloaded the footage, so we lost that. So, but look, long story short, when I went to start the YouTube channel, I no longer had a high definition camera, and I went out and purchased one that I purchased on eBay that they claimed was high definition, and it was really bad. And I was trying to do it on my phone, but my phone, when when I take the footage off, it does work in the editing suite. I use an old version of Final Cut Pro. I don't want to upgrade to the new one because I'm comfortable with this, and why fork out $450 when you've got a program that works.
Yep.
The problem with phone footage is I can't import it into the software and have the software encode it the way it likes or whatever.
Oh.
I have to copy it in and then render all of the footage. And if you've got 30, 40 minutes of footage, it can take hours to render. It's very time.
Wow.
So I did the phone for a while. Then I got another camera, and I was having a lot of trouble with audio in the early days. And I actually can't go back and watch. I think the first video I ever did was a review of the B-Wing, which that was done on the phone. But then there's some other ones. You know what? I really, really want to redo the History of 18 video, because I was happy with that at the time, but how I've grown over the years, there was a lot of toys and things in that video that I didn't discuss because I didn't have the toys, and the quality of the video and the audio itself. It was not long after that video that I did a major upgrade to a Sony 4K camera and a decent microphone. So that's actually, because the first Toy Histories episode I ever did was the history of G.I. Joe.
Okay.
And a few years later, I went back and redid that video because of the audio, and I made it longer with more detail. So the 18 one, and also the history of Mego, I would like to go back and kind of do not a special edition in the George Lucas term with CGI and all that, but like re-record the whole thing, but take it from a 10, 12-minute video to a 20-minute video with a lot more detail, showing a lot more toys in the quality that my audience has become accustomed to. I want to go forwards, not backwards, so.
No, I can appreciate that. And that's why I can appreciate, I mean, George, like everything, took it too far, but I could see why he looked back and thought, oh, especially, the leap from Star Wars to Empire, that leap in quality was phenomenal, let alone the special editions and all that. But yeah, I sympathize.
Yeah, there's a quote I read somewhere a long time. I'm sure it's a George Lucas quote where he says that you never finish making a film.
Yeah,
you get to a point where you abandon it and move on. Right. And all these years later, I understand what he's talking about. But it's obviously different running a YouTube channel, because I'm trying to get content out like at least every 2 weeks. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But I get to a point where I have to move on. But I can write a whole script, record it all, shoot all the B-roll, edit it all together. When I'm in the editing, so I can start fiddling around with things and introducing longer pauses between certain kind of paragraphs and shortening them. And the worst thing for me is when I have recorded all of that, because obviously I sit at a chair with a table next to me with a selection of the toys on the table. Once you've recorded that, normally my process is I leave everything set up. Mm-hmm. I import all the video. I edit together the script, the narration, and the pieces on camera. Because if I've forgotten something or I've made a mistake, I want to be able to go back down and sit at the same setup and just re-record the insert. But once I've done that, and okay, now I'm happy. Now all the toys come off the table. I change the camera setup and I start shooting B-roll. Mm-hmm. Then I might be in the editing suite and go, oh, I've got an idea for something else. It's like I can never, ever get the lighting and everything set up exactly the same again. So if it's just a piece of voiceover, that's fine. Yeah. But and that's happened to me a couple of times. I just have to, you've done it now. Unless you want to go back and redo the whole thing again, which, might postpone a video by a week or whatever. So, my system, though, I've learned from my mistakes, and I've improved the process of step by step how I piece together a video. So,
well, the quality is always improving as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't mind looking back, but I know what you mean. How you can cringe at, how how your work was in the beginning. I mean, you've been on what, 5 years, 6 years?
4.5 years. Yeah, it'll be 5 years in July. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I can certainly go back about 3 years. Pretty much from when I got the camera. Like, it always bothered me not having the videos in high definition, and no, it wasn't just that they weren't high definition. The cameras I was using weren't great, and the image was a little bit blurry and almost looked like there was Vaseline rubbed on the lens or something. And but at the hey,
you really are George. Vaseline on the lens. What is it? Like,
it looked like I had Vaseline on the lens. I wasn't putting any on there. Yeah. Exactly. But but at the time, I was just working with what I had, and that's one of the great things about YouTube. You look at any other channel that's been on for a long time and has been successful. There's one movie review channel that I won't mention because I don't particularly like the guy, but for some reason I still find myself watching his videos. But he's come a long way from doing movie reviews like in his bedroom to now. And as an audience member, in a strange way, I almost find those earlier videos a bit better because there's an unpolished charm to them. That's the thing about YouTube, that a random guy living in a remote town on the northwest coast of Australia, as a hobby, can just start sharing his toy collection and what knowledge he has of toys with like-minded people. And then, the next thing you know, there's like 27,000 people watching my videos and tuning into live streams and stuff like that. So
fantastic. The community really is really special. That's another thing that was great to me about it. You can leave all the crap of the day and your mundane life behind. Nobody's bringing up politics or religion or anything, at least on Patreon. None of that's ever going on. It's just toys and having fun. Yeah. Stories, like the playground. Like, we were in elementary school on the playground. We didn't talk. What did you see what Marsha did? Nobody did that. It was just fun and pure joy.
Yeah, I think the only thing in the playground when I was young, like 6, 7, the only thing we used to argue about was we would like role play Star Wars during recess and things, and it would be we would argue over who would be Han Solo, who would be Luke. Yeah. And I always remember there was this kid who lived down the road from me. I think his name was Neil, but it was quite cold in England, and you'd go to school wearing gloves, and most of us had knitted woolen gloves that your grandparents had made. Mm-hmm. And this kid they weren't leather, but faux leather, black, like imitation leather black gloves.
Yeah.
He was always Luke because he would just take one glove off, and he's like, "How can I not be Luke? I'm the only one with the black glove." And I was like, "Damn it, man!"
He's bringing costumes and props, man. He's taking it seriously. No, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. No,
I've never even on the Patreon. I've never even had to come out because I don't want politics and all that kind of stuff on there. I've never even had to come out and kind of set those guidelines. I've never done that, and it's never occurred. And certainly, Timothy Ward, big shout out to yourself for the excellent work you do moderating the live streams, both for this channel and for Retroblasting. He will nip that in the bud straight away. No, the world's going crazy right now. This is an escape for people. Exactly. You don't want to come here and read comments about what's going on in Congress and all that kind of thing. So
100%. 100%. Yeah. No,
so do you have a favorite toy in your collection?
Oh yeah. I would say my favorite, the one that has the most emotional attachment, would be my white X-Wing, my original X-Wing. That was my first vehicle I got. And I mean, the hours and hours and hours I flew that thing around the house and crashed on Dagobah again and again. That thing, amazing toy. Love that toy.
Yeah. And that's the original white one, not the battle damage version. Yeah.
Not a one, but yeah.
And have you had to restore that when you became an adult collector?
That was when it got put away, the batteries were in, so that was horribly corroded. It was extremely yellow, and some of the batteries that exploded actually had stained some of the plastic. So it was in a bad way. But she came back. She's white and shiny now. There's repro stickers and
Ooh.
Yeah.
You'll be in trouble.
I don't give a shit. Rather the toy look good. If somebody can defend, I have art on my wall. I do not have a Claude Monet painting. It is a reproduction because I can't afford a Monet. I have a print of a Hirschfeld caricature. I have a print of a Chuck Jones Bugs Bunny. I can't own the original stuff. I mean, it's beyond. I'd rather have something on my wall than nothing. Then I'd rather have my figures have the right accessories. And I don't know. I just can't understand how people can parse that and they're okay with imitation rugs. Or the best argument I heard was all the weapons and accessories are imitations unless it's the actual one that came in the actual packet with the actual figure. That's the best, right? I mean, everything else is a replacement.
Yeah, because they were made in different factories and all this, and it's
But no, the white X-wing, that's my. I think the only thing I had to resource, I had to find the canopy glass that had long been lost, but everything else was there. And I forget. I think that was in hydrogen peroxide for a week.
Yeah,
just
right.
Off the shelf, nothing, no high powered hydrogen peroxide, so it was fine. I kept checking it and did it over one winter.
I picked up a white X-wing off eBay 4 or 5 years ago, I think. When I was a kid in England, actually when I did the Star Wars Follies episode with Retro Blasting about the Palitalk X-wing that I'd sent to Michael. When I was researching that, I always knew about the Palitalk version with the chrome R2-D2, no batteries in it. But what I was surprised to discover when I did the research was that they had a white original, they had the grey battle damage version, but then in the middle they had a white battle damage version. So with the battle damage stickers, so that
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Which is, I believe that's the one I managed to get for Michael without the battle damage stickers because I knew you wouldn't want that. But that's the one I thought I had when I was a kid. But I purchased a white Kenner X-wing probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was used in a couple of videos here. And then it didn't have the insert or anything, but it had the original box. And when I moved from the last house into this one, which was like 2.5 years ago, I had a lot of boxes on display up above the cabinets here. I had the Star Wars packaging as opposed to, and all the vehicles were in the boxes.
Right.
Well, I wanted to take the white X-wing out of the box to record my part of this Star Wars Follies with Retro Blasting. So I've got a grey battle damage one without the stickers on it that actually Gracie bought for my 40th birthday, I think. And then this white one that had been in the box for a couple of years. I took it out of the box, and for some reason or another, in the 2 years it was in this box, it went yellow. It's not really bad, but it's gone yellow, and it's like it's been in the box. Normally they get yellow when they're out in sunlight or under fluorescent light or whatever. So I need to. It's not gone really bad. It's certainly not as wide as it was. And I'm able to look at video footage and go, yeah, it's definitely gone yellow from when it was in this video 4 years ago, whatever it was. I've considered restoring it and doing that, but I don't want, it's got original actually, are those original? No, I might have replaced the stickers when I first got it anyway. So yeah, maybe I will restore it. Maybe. Who knows?
And you didn't have to restore it the first time, right? It was fine when you first got it.
I think all I did was replace the stickers the first time. Because I definitely didn't use hydrogen peroxide or anything like that. Because the only thing I've ever done that on is figures in a jar. I've never ever tried to do a vehicle. Not opposed to doing that. I've just never needed to. I've never had a big white vehicle that needed that kind of restoration. So
I even did it on a blue X-wing. There was yellowing on a blue X-wing. I did it because I had done it.
A blue X-wing or a blue TIE fighter? You mean?
I'm sorry, blue X-wing. No such thing, Jake. TIE fighter. Thank you. Had done it on a blue TIE fighter that had some yellowing. Got a good deal on it because it was yellow. Not terribly, but enough that it was noticeable. And the reason I tried it was I had some figures that had yellowing, and they weren't all white. Some of them were, I think one was a General Madine, one was a Squid Head. And I thought, well, if it worked on non-white plastic, why wouldn't it work on non-white plastic figures? It'll work on maybe the vehicle. So it did. I tried it and it worked. Yeah. And it's, I mean, hydrogen peroxide at the pharmacy is so cheap. I think you can get a big liter bottle for like $1.99 or something. It's not expensive. So
yeah. You mentioned before that when you first came across the YouTube channels, Toy Poloy, Retro Blast, and myself, and that we all do restoration videos. Like I've done a couple of restoration videos. Probably I don't do too many of those. It's although I do a lot of toy restoration, I find filming those kinds of videos quite difficult. You really need the way I do them. You need a cameraman. Obviously, the way Toy Poloy does it is very different.
Right.
But also, it's kind of like, Toy Poloy. Not that he would. I know Toy Poloy very, very well, and he would never be offended with me making restoration videos. But I kind of think he does them so well. Why do I need to go over into that area of it? The one thing where it's a little bit different is because I was mainly an Action Man collector for the first probably the first 16 years I was an adult collector. It was all Action Man.
Right.
I have become quite adept at restoring Action Man stuff, which is unique because they wear cloth uniforms. So there's lots of sewing, stain removal of fabrics, how to wash them. And I don't know,
after it's been washed, how to make sure you almost iron it with your fingers so
yes.
After it's drying it doesn't get all those little tricks. Yeah.
And Toy Poloy has done some Action Man ones like that, and I'm thinking that's probably an area where there may be a gap in the in the content that's available out there, but I don't purchase much Action Man stuff these days. I'm busy acquiring other things, and everything I have was either mint when I got it or it's already been restored.
Right.
The other thing is I really enjoy the satisfaction I get of resurrecting a toy and taking a rough played with toy and bringing it back to really nice. I get so much satisfaction out of that.
Absolutely.
But the process of pricking your finger with a sewing needle, and I'm like, does anyone really want to see that on camera? I don't think I would enjoy the process of creating videos like that, which is why I've never done. I've done some very basic ones like the Eagle-Eyed Action Man. They changed the body style, and they're really prone to having the neck posts snap off because they had a rubber connector. So I did a video once. Cause it's a question that I get asked all the time well, not me personally, but all the Facebook groups. How do you reattach an Action Man head when the rubber connector's broken? So I did a video about that, kind of basic things. But and I've never ever in 27 years of being a passionate Action Man collector, I have never ever heard a single person in that community say that by replacing a rubber connector in the neck makes it reproduction. Not that we just use like corded elastic to do it anyway, or there's a few other methods. What's the alternative? Have all these headless Action Man figures? It's ridiculous.
It's insane. No, I mean, I can't wrap my head around. I mean, can you imagine all your Motu characters legless? Because used to replace, the bands, or your G.I. Joe figures, all your Real American Hero figures just crumpled because the O-ring. I can't replace the O-ring. That was a found item. Do you think Hasbro went to their rubber factory and smelted their own molds to make their own O-rings? No, they bought that off the shelf somewhere. Give me a break.
Yeah, that's the one argument that is so beyond stupid, because so when there's a huge difference between replacing a broken crotch, which is actually something that a designer has sculpted, they made a tool, it was then painted, manufactured. It's a unique piece.
Yes.
But the screw, there was no guy at Kenner designing screws. I just go to the hardware store and we need a screw this big, go buy one of them, and we need an O-ring that size, go buy that. Yep. It's not an originally created item. It's that's the craziest argument I've ever heard.
Just insane. I just can't get in that headspace. I understand. I liken it to cars in so much as, okay, this is the car. These are the tires that were on the car when it rolled off, the factory line. I can understand how that adds value, but nobody's going to say to a guy that has worn out tires, oh, you're going to devalue the car. The tires are flat, they're bald, they're cracked, you can't drive on them, but you're going to devalue the car if it can move on its. That's insane. It just none of those found items that, like you're saying, screws, O-rings, parts that the toy manufacturer didn't even make. They bought these off the shelf somewhere. Just silly. Sorry to keep digressing.
It's all good. It's all good. So, do you collect any other toy lines apart from Star Wars? So what else do you collect?
So I also collect Mask and Centurions. When I started back up, I thought, well, I'm going to focus, much like you said, you just collected Action Man. I figured I'm just going to focus on the Star Wars at first, because the Mask and the Centurion toys needed more love and attention to bring them back, to restore them. In fact, this past holiday, I spent my time off redoing all my Mask toys. So I'm actually working on getting those all displayed and set up and looking their best. But anyway, I first started with the toys that I started first collecting, which were the Kenner Star Wars. Then I moved on to starting with the Centurions. I guess Mask 85, Centurions was the absolute last toy line that I collected. Like you, like 12 or 13, middle school, wasn't cool anymore. Girls were interesting, and just I had them. They were I never got rid of the toys. Like I said, I kept them the whole time, but just wasn't something I was actively collecting. Anyway, so Mask and Centurions is another toy line. And a friend, Joseph, he actually got me into the old Mego Star Trek line, because he knows I'm a big Star Trek fan. I never really collected any toys. When we played Star Trek, we did, like you were saying at recess, it was more role playing. We played Captain Kirk. We didn't play with Captain Kirk. And the Mego stuff, by the time I started getting into toys, that really wasn't around. At least I don't remember seeing it on the shelves. It wasn't in my. I was obsessed with it.
That was more. That was in the middle of the 70s, like.
Right.
So, I want to say that 74, 73, 74 it came out. Mego first brought out Star Trek, and then probably ran Mego stuff based on the motion picture. Star Trek the motion picture would have been around.
Right.
But the original, you were talking about the original 8-inch Migos. They were before both our time. But again, a story I've told many times. For some, I don't get it. I grew up I was born in 77. So when I was getting into toys was probably 81 was probably I think 80 is when I got Fisher-Price Adventure People. And then 81, I started to get Star Wars toys. I believe I got the Millennium Falcon in 81. But now I'm an adult collector and I'm collecting all this stuff from the 70s. And even my interest in 60s G.I. Joe stems from my love of Action Man. I've gone all the way back and researched it. But I think it's having an older brother who was born in 71, and he had Evel Knievel toys and $6 Million Man and all that stuff. So, I had those toys. I was aware of them when I was a kid, even if I didn't see them in toy shops. But for some reason, I seem to gravitate towards those more than I do the stuff that was available when I was a kid, probably because it was unattainable at the time. So now I'm a collector. A lot of collectors, even if you're only collecting Star Wars, you start out replacing what you had.
Right.
And then from there, you kind of start filling out your collection, not just by going after everything, but going after the things you wanted when you were a kid and didn't have. That's how a lot of collectors do it. So
what I did, I replaced all the things that I lost first, and then started getting the things that I always wanted. And why not?
Yeah. Now, Centurions is not something I had when I was a kid. I didn't have Centurions toys, but there was like a friend down the street who had Centurions toys, so I played with them. I did watch the cartoon, and it's something I always wanted as a child. And when you said earlier about having to pick your battles, I come from a real working class family. My dad was a very, very always has been a very hard worker, always provided for us, and my parents really made me feel when I was growing up that we were more well off than what we were. But looking back in hindsight, no, we weren't. But you knew you were only going to get so many things for Christmas. You had to pick and choose. And I don't know what year Centurions came out in the UK, because most likely it wasn't the same year that it came out in the States. A lot of things came out a year or two later. So I don't know what year it came out in the UK, but I was obviously into something else. And similar with I think the only mask toy I owned was the small green bike that turned into a helicopter. Was it Condor?
Condor, yep. Brad Turner.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that toy when I was a kid, and I loved Mask. Again, I wanted Mask toys, but was probably getting Action Force or Rambo or something else at that time. You couldn't. There was too many cool toy lines in the 80s. You really had to pick your battles. But I would love to. I would love to start collecting Centurions, because I'd really like to do a video one day about that toy line. Man, the prices of those have gone up dramatically in the last few years.
Insane. They really have gotten ridiculous, I think. But I guess because it was such a short run, maybe they're not as plentiful as.
No. They're certainly not. But also, I think there's been a real resurgence in the popularity of that line. I think. It was quite short-lived in the 80s, but I don't remember the cartoon that well, because I've probably never rewatched it since I was a kid, but I remember that I liked it.
I love the cartoon.
Those toys looked amazing.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, they're just a little bit bigger than the Mego. I'm just looking at them, trying to compare them. A little bit taller than the Mego. The cartoon was great because it was, story of the week. There weren't really arcing storylines, but it was, they set up the story. The origin story was told in the beginning of every single episode. In the near future, you hear about the bad guy. There's 3 good guys, air, sea, and land, and they kick ass and they beam all over the planet and, get different weapon systems and make you want to buy all the toys and all the stuff. But yeah, it was the cartoons for me, Mask cartoon and the Centurions cartoon, which really got me into the toys. And by that point, I was getting older, so I started having, shoveling snow money or mowing grass money or raking leaves money kind of thing, so I could start really investing, so to speak. And that's when you could go into a hardware store and buy toys. or go to the convenience store and there were still, toys on a spinner rack at the Quick Stop, that kind of thing. Now, nothing like that.
No, it's you can go into a toy store now and not find toys.
It's sad, but it's true. It's so true.
Yeah. Well, look, Michael, we've been going for bang on an hour. We've just gone over the hour mark, and this is if you've watched the Palitalk before, this is the point in the episode where I like to play a game called Sum It Up in One. All right, so I'm sure you've watched these episodes before. You know the rules of the game. I am going to throw out the names one at a time, the names of 5 different retro toys, and try and sum up that toy in one word. Let's have a bit of fun.
The James List of toys.
Squid head.
Squid head. Oh, squid head. One word. Damn, this is harder than I thought.
The first word that pops in your head.
Gray. The toy's just different shades of gray. So gray. That's
the first word that popped into my head was tentacles.
Tentacles? Yep, that's a good one.
All right. Slave one.
Oh, cool.
That would be my word of choice as well. that was an easy one, wasn't it? That was an easy one.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I do. I didn't have the slave one when I was a kid. From memory, I had an X-wing, ATST, the Scout Walker, had the Millennium Falcon, had Darth Vader's TIE Fighter was the only TIE Fighter I ever owned as a kid.
Same.
The Land Speeder I had. That might have been about the extent of my vehicle collection when I was a kid. I had a few of the creatures, had the Tauntaun Wampa. So I suppose the next, the slave one was one of those. I always wanted it as a kid. So when I got into collecting Star Wars, that was one of the not the first vehicle I picked up, but one of the first. I had to get that one. So, but speaking of creatures, here's the next one for you. Dewback.
Buffalo. I think they remind me of buffalo for some reason, but bison. Yeah, they remind me of buffalo.
Yeah, reptilian buffalo. It's
big beast of burden. Yeah, just buffalo. Don't know why.
Cool.
Desert buffalo.
All right, that's how many is that? 3?
I think so. Yep.
Yeah. Squid head, slave one, Dewback. Okay. General Mating.
Just lame. Lame. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say boring, which very similar.
The hair, just all of it. The beard, the sourpuss. Yeah. What is that white like PowerPoint thing? Wand? Is it from the Wizard of Oz? What is that? I don't even know what that is.
I think it's a remote control for the map in the. I've got no idea what it is.
Or is it like supposed to be like a patent riding crop? Or I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah, but yeah. It's funny when I got into collecting Star Wars again. I was purchasing I'm a mixture of loose and packaged collector. Over the years of running the YouTube channel, I've gone further and further away from packaged collecting because when you show an action figure in a video in the packaging, here's the front of the card, here's the back. You can't show the articulation, the accessories, different poses, things like that. So weirdly, running the YouTube channel has really a lot of the time when I'm going on eBay looking for stuff, it's always going to become part of the collection, but it's more to do with, I need this for a video I've got planned. So it's completely changed the way I collect. But going back to the packaged Star Wars stuff, when I got into collecting Star Wars again, which was just prior, I think, to running the channel, I probably got back into Star Wars a year or 18 months before. So I was purchasing a number of mint carded figures. And at the time, Klaatu is like the peg warmer of all peg warmers. Not all of the aliens from Jabba's palace. Some of them were quite popular. I think all of those action figures were popular. But Klaatu, and I don't have him anymore. I don't know. I must have resold him or something or traded it with someone. But I picked up a nice condition card back, Return of the Jedi Klaatu, for $30. And this is after. When did Force Awakens come out?
Was that 16?
15, I think, 2015.
Okay.
Actually, no, that may have been when I got back into collecting Star Wars. So, and it's pretty much since The Force Awakens, prices jumped dramatically.
Insane, yeah.
But I must have been, got in early, and I got him for $35. But where I'm getting to with this is, as a kid, I would much rather have Klaatu than Maydeen. Now he's not difficult to get carded, but he certainly doesn't seem to be as plentiful as Klaatu. I don't know if Kenner overproduced that figure, but I would think he'd be more of a peg warmer than one of the aliens in Jabba's palace. So,
yeah, that is strange. I would have thought the same as you. That's weird.
Yeah. Maybe it was a peg warmer as well, but I just haven't. Maybe people don't even put him up for sale because he's so lame.
It's possible. Yeah, who knows? I think I got him. Well, that was one of the figures I got for $1. I mean, I don't know what it would do. Few cents for me.
Yeah. All right. So the final one, and I actually I cheated a bit here. I wrote a couple of these down.
That's fine.
But the last one I wrote down, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come out with something different.
Okay.
Sum up in one word your white X-Wing.
Oh. Memories. For me, it's memories. Yeah. Memories.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times. I was doing an Action Man video or live stream a few months ago, and I've got I think I had about 4 or 5 of my original Action Man figures from childhood, and they were so well played with that I could barely get them to stand up because all the joints were loose. And when an Action Man is well played with, it looks like someone is holding the strings of a puppet. And when you let him go, they just crumple. That's what an action, because there's so many joints. Yep. Later on, I've learned through toy purloin things that the use of that PTFE thread tape for threads tighten up joints, but I didn't know that back then. So a lot of my childhood Action Man figures, I would display sitting in a vehicle so they didn't have to stand up and things like that. And over the year, because a lot of the uniforms I had when I was a kid were so well play worn, they were beyond repair. So I've got original figures and some of the plastic accessories and stuff. But when you've been collecting for as long as I have, I had forgotten which ones were my originals because I don't remember which outfit they got put in, and things have changed over the years. And I had a favorite Action Man who he had his own name. And I've told the story before about joining the Action Force Collectors Club, and I got the code name Dusk Fox.
Yep.
My favorite Action Man became Michael Dusk Fox. And the reason he was Michael is there was a kid down the street who was a year or two older, but we used to play Action Man together. And although he was only a year or two older, I looked up as him being a real big kid, and I loved that this big kid was happy to play Action Man with me. So I took the name of this friend who lived down the street and the code name, and my Action Man became Michael Dusk Fox. And some probably around 9 or 10, I got to the age where I started playing with matches for some reason, and I'd learned that if I lit a match, let it burn for a little bit, and blew it out, and while it was still red hot, if I scraped it on the plastic of an Action Man, it would be like giving him a scar. And I probably got the idea from like watching Rambo 2, where the Russian guy runs the hot knife down his face. Because I was a huge fan of Rambo as well, I wanted my guy to have the scar on the arm like he sews up in First Blood.
Yep. So,
again, long story short, my original Michael Dustfox Action Man figure has a burnt-in scar, which then got coloured in with a little bit of like red permanent marker pen.
Mm-hmm.
I know I never lost this figure, but I don't know where within this vast Action Man collection he is.
Uh-huh.
And I was making a video of a number of months ago, and for some reason I had to change a figure out of an outfit or whatever it was. And I took this Action Man out and I was like, it's Michael Dustfox. He's got the scar on his arm.
That's great.
So I've now put him, I've dressed him in a Space Ranger outfit. And because he's all loose, he's sitting up the very top. He's sitting on the edge of an Action Man, the box for the assault copter. And I'm never going to put him back in the cabinet. I'm not worried about him because he's not perfect condition. I'm not worried about him getting dusty and dirty. But by leaving him there, I'll never forget now that was my best friend when I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. He was my buddy. He had a whole history, a backstory. My sister had a Hawaiian Barbie got given to her one year, and I stole her. And again, probably from watching Rambo, and you've got the indigenous Vietnamese agent in First Blood Part 2 that he works with. So I had to give my guy an Oriental wife. Isn't that weird? I'm now married to an Asian lady. That's never occurred to me before. But yeah, it was a Hawaiian Barbie, but it looked close enough. And I think my mum even sewed like black pajamas for her as well, so I could dress her in an outfit that would suit. And God, I haven't thought about that in years.
That's fantastic. That's a great story.
But it's one of those stories that I would definitely not tell to those guys at work on Monday who were talking about the game on the weekend. I stole my sister's Barbie to give my favorite Action Man a wife or a girlfriend. But she was as badass as like Cat from the Rambo line. That's how I envision it. And again, that may have been where that had come from as well, because Action Man had long since gone from toy stores, but I was still playing with him around the time that I was getting Rambo toys, and I really wanted the Cat action figure, but she was very hard to get because I believe she was short packed. Where they might have 2 of every other figure in the box, they would only have 1 of her or whatever it was. Right. So very pleased to have reacquired her all these years later. But,
yeah, that's awesome. That's such a cool story, though. I love that. Yeah, great memory.
It is.
Yeah,
probably a nice way to end the show. What do you reckon?
Sure, I love it. This was, again, thank you so much. I'm deeply honored and very, very, very touched to be asked to be on. So thank you very much. I really do.
No, I've had an absolute blast chatting to you about childhood memories, and it's I don't think this will be the last time, Michael. I think we'll do this again.
I'm looking to it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and thank you very much for Michael taking time out of your day to come and join us on the Analog Toys YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Take care.